Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 4 of Dark Frequencies. What is going on? We are excited for a brand new show because this week we've got a special report. Episode 4 was going to be based on runaway artificial intelligence, but we've decided to delay that episode. That is going to be episode 5, and instead we're going to cover what has been breaking news that has been going on behind the scenes. It's kind of weird, the reporting of this, because it almost seems a little bit earth-shattering in certain ways, but we're going to cover it from every known angle because there's also some mysterious things going on here. Could this be a false flag event? There's all different kinds of possibilities, and that's what we're going to be discussing today on Dark Frequencies. This, of course, episode 4, Disclosure. Now, before we get into the episode, there is one thing I do need to say to everybody out there. Please go ahead and subscribe. Subscribe to Dark Frequencies, hit the little bell, and make that happen so that way whenever we have an episode, in case we switch things up, which we were supposed to have an episode last week, we delayed it, well, this will notify you and let you know of our schedule and keep you up to date on all of that. All right, I am joined by Roots, reporting from Colorado, and he is in outer space right about now. Roots, what is going on?
Not much. Just floating through space, like you said. Enjoying Skiva's hat, man. I wish I had one like it as well. I'm kind of bummed out.
Absolutely. And there is Skeeves. And yes, he does have the tinfoil hat. What is going on, Skeeve?
Man. You know, with everything we've been finding out lately, can't have them reading my thoughts. How can I? I'm just kidding. This is just a joke, guys. I'm just a silly guy.
Skeeve's been wanting to do that for the last couple of episodes. We finally entertained him, so he's able to do it on this episode. But yeah, guys, so what we're going to get into today, that we've got a lot of things to cover. So we're going to go ahead and keep the chit-chat to a minimum, and we're just going to jump right into the meat of this episode. Because basically what we're talking about here, ladies and gentlemen, if you have not been interested in the UFO topic like I have, I've pretty much been interested in UFOs ever since I was a little kid, ever since I saw Close Encounters of the Third Kind and any other movies that E.T., Extraterrestrial. Then I would sometimes read little books about it. We're going to be talking about Tom DeLonge actually as well in this episode, and he mentions that when he was in junior high, he would go to the junior high library, he had to read books about something, and he found books on UFOs. And that's kind of similar to me as well. I kind of was reading books about UFOs, and then in the 90s was a UFO thing, man. There was a lot of TV shows on. It was Bob Lazar. It seemed like breaking news. I mean, it seemed like something might be imminent. And then I got disinterested in UFOs, and the number one reason why I got disinterested is it seemed like it was going nowhere. It seemed like in my lifetime, this was never going to be revealed. So it seemed hopeless, right? So I just was like, F it. I'm not going to be interested in UFOs anymore, because whenever you got interested in the UFO topic, everybody would be like, yeah, this is the year something's going to happen. This is the year. No, dude, later this year, they're going to release this information. No, early next year, it's going to be the presidential campaign. They're going to talk about it this time. That's been going on for like 30-something years, as long as I've really been into UFOs. And so I finally got disinterested. But the crazy thing, folks, is we could be looking at what you might call a soft disclosure. And it might be underway, and it might be happening. And the reason we're doing this episode, the reason why we've decided to have a special episode and delay our artificial intelligence episode, is because of the story that hit recently. It was on the New York Times, and normally you think, wow, the New York Times, off-world vehicles not made on this earth. Now that should be an earth-shattering headline. It should be the lead story of every news channel on every station. If newspapers existed, which, I mean, they probably do, but I don't get them anymore. But if newspapers existed, it should be the headline, this should be a big thing, right? And it kind of is a big thing on Twitter and different places. People are raising eyebrows. People that have brushed aside the UFO topic their entire lives are starting to say, wait a minute, Pentagon? The Pentagon is releasing this stuff? Like, so it's changing the game a little bit. Why don't I go to Roots real quick? Roots, over these last couple of months, because I don't know that you wouldn't consider yourself like a UFO nut job, probably not as much as me and Skiva have been over our lives, yet you got to admit that there's been this continuing theme of these news releases happening, these videos coming out, and it seems like something is really underway, right?
Yeah, actually, it started a few years ago, right? When they started kind of talking about started Space Force got created. You know, we found out that Space Force, I talked to a guy not too long ago that was retired military Air Force, and he was telling me he was in Space Force 10 years ago. So it's been around for a while. They're just now making it public for whatever reason. And you're seeing a consistent, I guess, like somebody said in one of the comments about like a drip, you know, we're seeing drip, 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 little tidbits leading to where we're at now, where this is actually probably one of the biggest revelations that they've been revealing in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's pretty fantastic. And Skiva, like the difference with this, the reason this is different, I think, for a lot of people, and why we do have people that never had a dog in the fight. They weren't hardcore skeptics, and they weren't true believers either, because they just weren't that interested in the topic altogether. But a lot of these people, they've kind of been woken up a little bit. And I think the difference is that we're talking about like the Department of Defense, like officially releasing videos saying, yes, those videos are real. Kind of weird, right? A little bit.
It's so bizarre, man. You know, I think like you, I thought I was going to go my whole life and nothing would ever happen on this subject. But this has been a pleasant surprise. I mean, 2020 just continues to get stranger and stranger, right? And one of the things I wanted to mention about Space Force real quick is how weird is it that they just straight up ripped off Star Trek for their logo?
Yeah.
I bet every one of those dudes used to watch Star Trek back in the day, and now they're like, yeah, we're actually going to be going where no man has gone before. So yeah, it's super interesting, man, and I'm stoked to talk about this stuff, and maybe I'll take off my hat soon here.
Yeah, it kind of looks like, it almost looks like an Acura logo a little bit, the new Space Force logo. But yeah, so we've had this story, and it was in the New York Times, and one thing I wanted to mention, so here's the story that we're talking about that's in the New York Times. No longer in shadows, Pentagon's UFO unit will make some findings public. And it says by Ralph Blumenthal and Leslie Keene. And so all along here, one thing that I want to do with this as we're covering this is I want to be honest. I want to be upfront. Look, I am a UFO guy. I've actually seen a couple of UFOs in my lifetime. I'm not saying it's alien, but I saw some weird crap, right? And I'm kind of I guess I would put myself more in a believer camp than an apathetic or skeptic camp on this one. But at the same time, we have to be fair to this subject, and we have to, if there's something a little bit weird about some of this stuff, we have to recognize that. And so I wanted to talk about one of the authors of that article, because one of the authors, I recognized the name, Leslie Keene. I was like, there's something about that name that rings a bell. And it should ring a bell if you are a UFO enthusiast and have been a UFO enthusiast for a very long time, because Leslie Keene has been involved in the world of UFOs. In fact, there's a picture her with Luis Eliazondo, which is one of the players that we're going to be talking about in this entire thing. There's a lot of interesting characters here. Somebody can make an incredible documentary covering all the interesting characters that are involved in this thing, because it's kind of a ragtag group of people that have all combined. If I ever thought that disclosure was actually going to happen, I would have never imagined this ragtag group of characters getting together, and they're the ones that are freaking making it unravel. But I just wanted to mention that this author, she's working for the New York Times. She's a legit New York Times author, but this is not like a random New York Times writer that was all of a sudden assigned to this and did an article about UFOs. She has been involved in the UFO industry for a very long time. So I just wanted to mention that and be clear about that. But one of the bombshells that basically came out in this article on the New York Times is a major quote, and the quote was given by astrophysicist Eric Davis. Okay, and so we got to be careful here, though. We can't just run off to the races and assume that all of this is 100% legit. We're going to cover this from all these angles. So Eric Davis claims that he briefed senators as recently as March of this year on materials recovered from off-world vehicles not made on this earth. And that's possibly a picture of some metamaterials where there's like 80 fine layers of materials within like 3 microns, supposedly materials that could not be recreated on planet Earth, supposedly. Like they need to be manufactured in space or something like that. In fact, guess what? I've got a clip from Tom DeLonge that was on Joe Rogan where he talks about this exact subject here. And so I'm going to go ahead and run this clip real quick. It's really short. We'll check it out and then we'll be right back. So let me go ahead and grab this Tom DeLonge clip. Tom DeLonge on these metamaterials.
Civilizations that have been coming here forever. That's why it's all in all the ancient fucking scripts and texts and carved into rocks and all that shit. But trying to figure it out, trying to connect the dots and looking at debris that they probably still have in a warehouse going, we have no fucking clue how to make this or back engineer this stuff. I mean, there's a piece of metal from a crash that I've seen, and I've seen the science on it, and it's atomically aligned, and it's layered in like 80 layers within just a few microns of purities of metal that aren't even in our solar system, and they think it needs to be made in an area where there's no gravity. So number one, it has to be made in space. Number two, even if we were to create a machine that can potentially do some of this stuff, 3D printing layers of different metals of obscene purities, it would cost hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. These are extraordinarily...
Yeah, so that is the clip of Tom DeLonge, and he's also a very interesting character that is in this whole entire phenomenon. But why don't I go ahead and go back over to Roots for a second here. And Roots, so you might not have known before we started this show about one of these writers on the New York Times, this Leslie Kean, basically being a longtime UFO researcher. And I got to imagine that a lot of people that look at this article, they don't know that at all. They don't know that the New York Times hired this person. I mean, I'm not saying she's like making stuff up and it's all fabricated or anything like that, but it's like most people probably aren't aware of that. Does that change your opinion any on this article, Roots?
Well, timing changes my opinion in general, just because it's an election year. And I was going back, and there was articles from 2016 about scientific evidence that ET has engaged mankind, and stuff about Barack Obama is going to reveal different stuff, and Hillary's going to reveal this, and we're now in another election cycle. That would make me believe it's a little weird. But yeah, I mean, if you were going to write an article, you'd want to have somebody that has knowledge on the UFO, so that would make sense in general. But it is a little bizarre. I would agree.
Skiva, what about you? Did you know anything? I mean, I don't think you're quite as into UFOs as much as I've been into UFO. Like, I haven't been into UFOs recently, but when I was really into it, I was pretty goddamn into it. Like I would go to these specific UFO forums, and I knew the whole rabbit hole, Skinwalker Ranch, all of it. Like I'd go all the way down that rabbit hole. And I used to listen to this one podcast. It was called the Paracast. I think it still exists. A lot of commercials. It's very annoying to listen to unless you pay the extra money to get the commercial-free version. But I would hear about these different researchers. Were you aware that Leslie Kean, the writer, one of the writers involved on this, is like kind of a UFO person, long time?
So there's a lot of stuff I wasn't aware of in general. I was not aware of that before researching all of this stuff. I wasn't aware of who most of these people were and their involvements in a lot of this stuff. And it's all been super fascinating to see what these people are doing. Like Eric W. Davis, for example, this dude he's a PhD in astrophysics, right? This guy is a smart guy. He has worked on so many books. He has forwards in so many books. I mean, the list goes on forever. This dude is really, really smart. There's a lot of players in this that have very interesting pasts that I can't wait to get into.
Yeah, well, speaking of Eric Davis, actually, I have a little clip that's running right now that I think features some stuff from Eric Davis. You can see here, written by Dr. Eric Davis, talking about negative energy, wormholes, and all these different things. Eric W. Davis, PhD, he's an astrophysicist, worked with a company called Earth Tech. But even before that, here's an interesting thing. So I mentioned Skinwalker Ranch, which is this mysterious place in Utah where a lot of weird, crazy stuff was going on. And a billionaire by the name of Robert Bigelow, who is absolutely fascinated by this topic, he purchased this ranch and he set up a team of scientists called NIDS, National Institute for Discovery Sciences, and basically brought in all these different scientific specialists to live on Skinwalker Ranch and to basically work there and report all kinds of anomalous activities. And Eric Davis worked for NIDS. He was one of those guys that was there on Skinwalker Ranch. Then later, that's why I'm saying this is very incestual. All these people keep reappearing in different places. Now, I'm not saying it discredits the whole thing at all. These are people that are interested in this. How many astrophysicists are out there in the world that will actually take some of this stuff seriously? A lot of them won't. And so if Bigelow is setting up a group and creating a group, he's going to look for people that have an interest in this stuff and take it seriously. And so there's a limited number of those people. But I found that interesting as well, that he happened to work with NIDS. But I have a clip from Eric Davis where he talks about this off-world thing, and he talks about whether or not it could basically be, whether this could be like Russian or Chinese. Could this be from a foreign government? Is that's what's going on here? So let me go ahead and grab this clip. This is Eric Davis talking on the Basement Office podcast, which is another great podcast. Be sure to check that one out. Let's go ahead and take a listen. Oh, which I think I got these back. I got these mixed up. This is the Eric Davis montage. Here's the interview. I think I flip-flopped these. Here we go. We'll have it here in a sec. I might have screwed this up. Hold on. We'll just give it like 10 more seconds and see if we get some talking here in just a second. Dr. Eric Davis, negative energy. Damn it. You know what? I think I might have screwed up. Sorry, folks. I think I screwed up. But I did have a clip where he was talking about... let's see, and this isn't it. Let me see if it scrolls through and get to the clip where he's talking. These are some pictures of Eric Davis. So that first one was when he was with NIDS, and here he is with Louis Elizondo and
Eric Davis I'm an astrophysicist, and up until this week, I was the chief science officer at Earth Tech International Incorporated. I worked for a period of time as an outside independent contractor to the Air Force Research Laboratory at Edwards Air Force Base. I'm moving on to a new job with the Aerospace Corporation in Huntsville, Alabama. I'll be working on the nuclear thermal propulsion program for the manned lunar and manned Mars missions. Opinion, it's not of human origin, not of human construct. It's absolutely impossible compared to modern American and foreign technologies and aviation, aerospace, science, and engineering. Way beyond that. We investigated all that. We advised the ATIP program director on the encounter data, the witness reports, and so forth and so on. The Tic Tac exceeded the performance of anything we can produce. They are not any kind of an advanced UAV that the Chinese or the Russians or the Iranians or North Korea produce. They're light years ahead of anything that we have.
Okay, yeah, so that is Eric Davis. You can see that is a much older picture when he was a physicist working with NIDS and or National Discovery Institute of Sciences. And that's him with Hal Puthoff and Louis Elizondo. So let's go back over to roots. So this guy here, this astrophysicist guy, Eric Davis, are we to assume that, we just take this guy's word for it and he absolutely worked with the government and it's definitely off-world material? I mean, what do we think about this?
I don't like to take anybody's word for it, but I mean, I presume he's got a, pretty good history as far as what his credibility is. If that's the case, then yeah. But I don't know. Is he pretty credible? Skiba, you did a lot of background on these guys,
yeah,
right?
I didn't find anything that would make me think he was that he was not creditable. And then, I look at people like this guy and I look at people like Bob Lazar, and I'm like, well, I feel like there might be some accuracy here. They both have a lot of things to say. They both have a lot of back information that's very interesting. That sounds like it puts them in with working with this stuff. And and like I said, these aren't stupid people either. This guy, this guy's a PhD in astrophysics and has worked with a lot of really reputable people. Has done a lot of amazing research. The guy has worked on some, on quantum physics stuff. He's very bright. So, I'd like to think that he's not in it for the fame or anything, but you just never know, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know that he's in it for the fame because there's probably not a lot of fame. But looking at this article from the New York Times, one of the things it mentioned is Mr. Davis. Okay, so it says, Mr. Davis, who now works for Aerospace Corporation, which apparently is in Huntsville, Alabama, a defense contractor, said he gave classified briefings to a Defense Department agency as recently as March about retrievals from off-world vehicles not made on this Earth. So the thing is, he's saying, look, he gave briefings as recently as March to the Defense Department agency. So if he was lying about this, and he was lying about this in the New York Times, like, wouldn't the Defense Department agency say, wait a minute, this is a bunch of bullshit? Apparently, he also says that he gave classified briefings on retrievals of unexplained objects to staff members of the Senate Armed Service Committee on October 21st, 2019, and to staff members of the Senate Intelligence Committee 2 days later. So that is Eric Davis. So he is one of these guys that is involved in this entire mystery here. And he does have some connections. Like I've seen some videos of To the Stars Academy, and Eric Davis shows up in the background working with Hal Puthoff. And again, it's like this incestual thing where everybody's mingling with everybody. Doesn't necessarily mean there's some kind of ulterior motive going on here, but it does make it interesting nonetheless. Now, Skiva, one of the things that we wanted to talk about today as we go through this is we wanted to talk about To the Stars Academy. And so that goes back to Tom DeLonge, right? Which is Tom DeLonge, the founder of Blink 182. and all of a sudden, Mr. UFO guy. Like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
So why don't you give us a
Yeah.
little bit of a breakdown on what To the Stars Academy is all about?
So this really blew my mind. So there is a company called To the Stars Academy with some really wild people at the in the background here. So we got Tom DeLonge from Blink-182. He's one of the co-founders of this company. He's the co-author of 12 books. He is all about the unidentified aerial phenomena, or UFO, as most people know it. He's been consulting the company is consulting that this company that To the Stars Academy is now consulting for the research arm of the Pentagon, the CIA, the Department of Defense, Lockheed Martin. So there's a lot of legit companies that these guys are working with. Well, not companies, just parts of the government. We have some people like Dr. Hal Puthoff, who you just mentioned, who is a PhD. He's a co-founder and a board member of To the Stars Academy. He is an advisor to NASA, to the Department of Defense, and to the intelligence community on leading edge technical and future technical trends. He's a patent holder in lasers, communication, and energy fields. So the guy is quite smart. He works with a lot of agencies that would be involved in this stuff, which is pretty wild. We got a gentleman named Jim Semivan. A lot of these people have weird names. Also a co-founder of To the Stars, a board member, and he's the VP of operations. He spent 25 years as the operations officer for the Central Intelligence Agency. So the intelligence community, consultant for training and leadership, CIA tradecraft, countering weapons of mass destruction. Like, these people are all very much involved with the government, very much involved with the departments of the government that would be investigating a lot of this stuff, which has really been blowing my mind. We have J. Christopher Miser, who is a board member. He's a private equity expert and a co-founder. So I think he's part of the money backing of a lot of this. We have some executives, for example, Steve Justice. Steve Justice is the chief operations officer for To the Stars. He is the director of the aerospace division. And this guy, he is a director for integrated systems at Lockheed Martin Aeronautics Company. Lockheed Martin is a company who works on weapons and government government contracts with and anything from aerospace to bombs. So they're a pretty big company, and they do a lot of work with the government, which I thought was super wild. We have Louis Eliazondo, who we've seen quite a bit in these clips. This guy, he's the director. He's the of government programs and services for to the I keep wanting to say To the Top, the VR game, but To the Stars, To the Stars Academy. He is a career intelligence officer with the U.S. Army, the Department of Defense, the National Counterintelligence Executive, and the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. So these guys aren't just UFO enthusiasts that really want to make this stuff work. These so far are all people that work with the government, with a lot of credible, well, it's up to you if you think they're credible, organizations of the government, different parts, the CIA, stuff like that. It's really amazing that all of these people are getting together, and they are forming this company, and they are dedicated to figuring out and finding out all the secrets of this UFO stuff. An interesting thing that an interesting person in this is Carrie Delong. She, I guess her job is the chief content officer and the president of the entertainment division. Now, I thought this was really, really weird, right? That they have an entertainment division as part of this company. So not only are they marketing, or not only are they going out and they're researching all of this stuff and finding these materials and trying to figure out where these off-world crafts are, and but we have this person coming in who their job is to communicate, from what I've seen, communicate the findings in ways of like stories and stuff. So they're going to be doing some intellectual properties that are
Skiva.
Focused in.
Skiva, hold on one second right there, because you're actually at a real interesting part. And here is the Secret Machines. These are some of the entertainment properties that they're going to be doing, some of the TV shows and interactive like books, comic books, whatever, trying to do the whole multimedia thing. And I have a clip that is Tom DeLonge and Louis Elizondo, and they are promoting one of these Secret Machine books. And it's a very short clip, but they're talking about it, and it is kind of interesting. Let me go ahead and grab this clip, and you guys can check it out real quick, and then we'll continue on that, because he's talking actually about making franchises off some of these books and features. So let's go ahead and check this out.
Everybody, my name's Tom DeLong, and over here you have Luis Elizondo, but we go by Lou. Welcome.
Bob, Bill, Joe, I'm not sensitive.
Well, AJ couldn't be here today, the author, but the hurricane is ravaging the East Coast. But he will be calling in. I wanted to say thank you for everyone that is slowly coming on and tuning in to our little live event. We're really excited to talk about the Secret Machines book, the second one. This is a big deal for us, because this is kind of our flagship, what we call a franchise, which is a story that we hope to add on to it. And it's like wine, it gets better over time. Hello, everybody. My name's Tom DeLong.
Yeah, so that was the clip right there. And he's basically talking about the second book for Secret Machines and talking about how it's what we call a franchise. And I don't know, I found this kind of funny. So in the last couple of days, I had not seen a lot of this To the Stars stuff. I've heard about To the Stars. I heard a lot about it over the last couple of years when it started happening, because whenever, like, I wasn't into UFOs, but every once in a blue moon, I would go to this website called Above Top Secret, and I would go to their little UFO forum, which is the forum that I used to go to back in the days, and I would just check in to see if anything, every once in a blue moon, I would check in on it, like, every other year or so. I would check it just out of curiosity, and somebody would be bringing up this Tom DeLong, and it's like this rocker from Blink 182, and there's this new thing called To the Stars, and Tom DeLong is like super interested in all this stuff, and Tom DeLong wrote a book called Secret Machines, and that book is out there. You can get that book. It has some interesting stuff in there in terms of like, it's like fiction and nonfiction at the same time. And then that's supposed to be like a follow-up book. They're talking about a franchise. One thing I'll say here, because at one point he's like, well, we want to kind of be our own little Disney, but Disney for like millennials and like a sci-fi version of Disney. And we're going to have like TV shows and movies and stuff. And I was thinking to myself, Secret Machines, spelled like Secret Machines. Like, that sounds like a wonderful name for a big movie. Everybody's going to go see the new movie, Secret Machines. Yeah, can I get 2 tickets to Secret Machines? I don't know. It's like, bro, I think you could come up with a little bit of a better name than that. But yeah, this is this organization, To the Stars. And the thing is, so when all of this started happening, one of the things that you have to remember is if you go to any UFO forum or UFO community, you've got different groups of people there. You've got the true believers and you've got the hardcore skeptics, and it's like Republicans and Democrats. They're at each other's throats. Then you have the other people that are a little bit undecided, but they're kind of waffling between these two different areas. Well, you got to imagine all the skeptics they kind of had a field day when this stuff first started popping off, because they're like, what? A freaking rocker from Blink 182? You know, what is this? This is all fishy. This doesn't make a lot of sense here. Why would the government work with this dude? In fact, like, if you go and watch the Joe Rogan, the main Joe Rogan podcast where he had Tom DeLonge on there, that's one of the questions that's asked, you know, is like, why is the government coming to you? You know, that seems kind of crazy. You know, why are they, like, the government decides they're going to work with some outside organization, and they decide they're going to work with like a former rock star. Kind of weird.
Well, this guy was able to pull together, though, all of these people. You know what I mean? Like, this dude, obviously, you know, everyone wants to hang out with a rock star, right? So he was able to get together all of these people that you know, that work with the government and really make something cool happen here. Can I get into a couple of the divisions of what this company actually does besides the people in it?
Go ahead.
Because it really blew my mind. So they have a science and technology division, right? And they collect documents and physical materials from public and private sources related to the UAP phenomena, which is UFOs, to study it, and then transition to transformative technologies behind it to wider applications to the public benefit. So what they're doing is they're taking all this stuff and they're finding all of this crazy stuff that they're pulling out of, you know, UFOs or whatever, and they're finding ways to implement it into stuff, you know, which is pretty cool. The company's consulting and research arm features top former officials from the Pentagon, CIA, Department of Defense, and Lockheed Martin. They have, which I think this is one of the coolest things, they have these programs called Scout and Vault, right? Now, Scout, I think, is super cool. This is an app that anyone can download on their phone. And I don't know if it's out yet, but it's coming. And this app pretty much allows you to, like, you can turn notifications on, right? And if someone sees something in the sky, it will notify everyone in the area that has that app. It'll tell them where in the sky this unidentified object is, and for everyone to point their cameras up there and film too. And then, you know, that will upload to a database on the cloud, which then goes to these guys. And anyone with the Scout app can kind of, I believe, browse around some of this stuff and check it out. It's like a giant database for sightings and stuff. They then take all of this data and they send it to the Vault. And then with the Vault, they're able to use artificial intelligence to then cross-reference footage, link things together, you know, reference things from all over the world and all different kinds of classified and declassified documents and all the things they have access to, and kind of put everything together into one big pot, and then see what is the most credible things for them to go out and investigate. So this program is really, really wild, called Scout, and I think it's amazing. Imagine everyone out there that has a smartphone has this program on there, and then all of a sudden, you know, there's some sighting. Now all of a sudden, instead of having 1, 2, 10 recordings, you have thousands of recordings of this phenomenon going on. You know, the data that they're going to get from this is going to be unreal. They're also going to get a lot of garbage, but they've said that's okay. We gotta train the system. We gotta train this AI. If you want to send in garbage, go ahead, because the AI needs to go out and it needs to be able to identify the crap, right? So they're not discouraging people from necessarily going in and throwing in you know, garbage into this app and fake stuff, because they want the AI to be able to pick it out. And what better way to make this work than real world situations, right? So Scout and Vault, very, very, very cool stuff coming out. So keep an eye out for that stuff. There's a material and science research section here. And there's this thing called the Atom Research Project. And it focuses on the collection and scientific evaluation of material samples obtained through reliable reports of advanced space vehicles of unknown origin. I think that's super cool, right? These guys, their job is to obtain this stuff that has come from aerospace vehicles from unknown origin, right? I mean, like, they're going out and they're trying to find the crashed ships, the pieces of metal, the scraps, all the stuff that they, that has supposedly been out there, and maybe it's held in secret by the government. Maybe there's private companies that have some of this stuff, but they're going out there and they're finding it and they're trying to pull it in
Yeah,
and,
Skiva, check it out. This clip that's playing right now, this is one of To the Stars. They have a lot of videos on their YouTube channel, and the videos are highly produced. It has music in the right spots, and it's using clever little like they're making it look like a television show. They got money, they've got backing, and this little
video, Carrie Delong, right?
Yeah.
Whose job is to make this stuff into stories and to make it into consumable media for the public. So,
but this little video right here is them getting these so-called meta materials. And the one thing I noticed after watching all of this? They love their bubble wrap, baby. They really love their bubble wrap. No, they have let's have this wrapped 27 times in bubble wrap. We're going to unravel it. There's more bubble wrap. Now let's unravel it again.
Well, alien technology that fell from the sky and smashed into the ground and came, it's obviously very delicate, so you got to bubble wrap it all.
Yeah, but that's what you see in this video. Okay, now in this part of this video, this is really interesting, guys, because you're going to see how put off. Okay, so this is Luis Elizondo. There should be a freaking reality show about this, and there probably is. But Luis Elizondo, how put off, and that's Eric Davis right there. That's Eric Davis, the off-world vehicles. That's how put off. The guy that ran the remote viewing program back in the CIA in the 70s. Remember Men Who Stare at Goats and all that? That's the dude, how put off. In a quantum physics and stuff like that. There's Luis Elizondo tatted up like a mofo. And you always want your number one Department of Defense guy, your source, to be tatted like, Sons of Anarchy, basically.
Well, when he comes looking for those materials, he's got to be, he's got to look like he means business, and you better hand him over.
Yeah, and he knows how to wrap things in bubble wrap, and he has a special guest episode on Sons of Anarchy, and it's all gravy, man. So yeah, this is the To the Stars thing, and so Roots, I want to go back to you because. Again, as somebody that maybe wasn't just really into this whole UFO thing quite as much, and the good angle from that is you might have tangentially heard about Tom DeLonge being a UFO nut job, which is okay because I'm a UFO nut job to some degree. I mean, I wouldn't be hosting this show right now if I wasn't. But when you first heard about that, did you ever hear about oh yeah, Tom DeLonge, he's hella into UFOs, and did you have any idea that he was trying to do all this crazy stuff?
I didn't actually. It's kind of interesting because it's obviously had a love for it and or a very huge interest in once he was able to finance it. Like Skiva said, he brought all these people together and he's doing what I'm sure a lot of people even in this chat wish that they could do, that they could, because nobody's happy with what other people are doing. We want to get it done. And most people aren't doing anything. So it sounds like he's actually getting a lot of it done. And it's just bizarre that he's coming from such a different background, So
yeah, one of the interesting things about it, so one of the To the Stars Academy, one of their videos, again, they're incredibly well produced. They've got perfect lighting, perfect camera angles, a lot of production value, which is understandable. But the downside of that is you could have kind of a rinky-dink organization that you could make look way the F better than it really is by having clever editing and things like that. But the one thing I'll say is I kind of didn't really take To the Stars and all this that seriously, but actually taking time, looking into this, finding the people that are involved in this, all the different people that are in there, they're not necessarily weirdos and stuff. These are some legit people that they have. I don't know about the Luis Elizondo guy. I don't really know about him, but how put off, if you look at his history, he's been involved in some legit stuff over the years. And some of the other people that they have, were really involved in a lot of skunk works and all of that. So
Well, that's what makes this all so interesting, right? Is the people that are coming together to do this. Like you said, they're not your stereotypical UFO weirdos. These are people, working for the government. These are people working with the CIA, and these are serious. This is a serious thing.
Yeah, absolutely. But one thing I did want to mention, I want to go back to the Luis Eliazondo angle, because he seems to be like the next big guy. Like, you basically have Tom DeLonge. And so if like somebody's going to go on Rogan or some kind of show like that, it's going to be Tom DeLonge. He's the main guy. But this Luis Eliazondo guy seems to be the next main key guy in this whole thing. And I just wanted to mention that there are some conflicting ideas about this guy. So who am I talking about here? I'm talking about this guy right here, Luis Eliazondo. And so when this first broke, remember I said that you have your skeptics. And your skeptics aren't just going to sit there and accept that their dream has been shattered and aliens are now real and they've got to freaking eat Major Crow. The skeptics are not going to take that lying down. They're going to try to figure out any possible angle. They're going to try to pick holes in this. They're going to try to call the whole thing as a big fraud, a big sham. And so I did look around and I did find something where somebody was questioning Luis Eliazondo. And so I'm going to go ahead and pop this on the screen. And so, yeah, this is, I believe it was The Intelligencer maybe is one of these websites, but it says the media loves this UFO expert who says he worked for an obscure Pentagon program. Did he? And it says there is no discernible evidence that Luis Eliazondo ever worked for a government UFO program, much less led one. And now this was like back when this thing first hit, right? And so I was looking at this article, I read through it, and I did get a quote that they had in this particular article. And so there is this quote, which is supposedly from Pentagon spokesperson Christopher Sherwood. And he says, Mr. Eliazondo had no responsibilities with regard to the ATIP program while he worked in OUSDI up until he resigned effectively October 4th, 2017, which apparently like 3 or 4 days after he resigned, he joined To the Stars. So there is that. Now, here's the thing. Luis Eliazondo, you can watch other videos, and he actually responds to this, and he basically says it's kind of a misunderstanding. Anyway, you have to get into the weeds there. But what I'm trying to say here is that not everybody fully believes this narrative 100%. Some people think this Luis Elizondo guy, like some people think the whole thing is kind of a bunch of bullshit, really. Like, this guy supposedly was like a spy his whole life, and he's like doing this UFO thing, but he's a spy. Like, why do you have a spy as the head of advanced aerospace, whatever it's called, ATIP? Why do you have a spy at the head of that? That seems kind of unusual. Skiva, do you have any comments on that?
It is kind of wild, right? But I don't think it's any crazier than a lot of the other people that are working on this stuff. There's a lot of people here that let's say this one guy isn't 100% as qualified maybe as the rest. Look at these people that are involved in this. I mean, it's absolutely mind-bending. I don't know. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah. Roots, any other comments about the whole Tom DeLonge thing, To the Stars? I mean, look, you can go either way, right? I mean, it is kind of impressive, some of the people that they have. They don't just have like Joe Schmo off the street working for this group. They've got some pretty impressive people. And the one thing I'll say about Tom DeLonge, dude is all in. Like maybe he's being used, maybe he's being manipulated by the U.S. government for whatever their purposes are, but dude is all in. Like, Tom DeLonge ain't trying to scam nobody. Like, he truly effing believes in this, and he's putting a lot of his own money into this thing. Roots, any thoughts?
I think it's bizarre, but the spy thing, I think that alone should, I mean, there's a lot of incestuous stuff that goes in the government, and like Mepper was saying, you know, like it's the CIA, and they've been lying to us about so many things. So just the fact that somebody that is in that position in there, to me, it's a red flag. I mean, it doesn't mean that it's not legit. It just means it, like you said, why, you know? So odd person to have in that position. So
yeah, I mean, I'm still torn on the whole thing, but you know what? So what we wanted to talk about today is this idea of disclosure potentially happening. So this is bigger than To the Stars. It's bigger than Louis Eliazondo. It's bigger than Tom DeLonge. There's something interesting going on, because I'm telling you, there are UFO researchers that maybe died a couple of years ago that are rolling over in their grave over this stuff, because they would have dreamed of a day when the Department of Defense would say anything like confirming even close to UFOs. Like there is some weirdness here from the standpoint that this isn't on every news show. Like the day when this broke, I remember the Friday, and why do stories like this always break on like a Friday or a Thursday, and then it ends up getting buried over, you know, because you have a weekend. It's almost like it's deliberate. It's like, if you want to have a story that gets mainstream traction, bring it out on Tuesday, so people can talk about it on Wednesday, and they can talk about it on Thursday. You release a story late on Thursday or on a Friday, but I thought that was kind of weird. But Skiva, go ahead.
I don't think they want this to get a lot of attention, right? I mean, look at the timing of all this. You know, we have the COVID stuff. You know, we have riots in the streets, Black Lives Matter, all of this stuff that's going on full throttle right now. And this is when all of this, you know, they're like, hey, you know, this is the perfect time to just start slipping out information. It's bizarre. It's the timing of all of this is super bizarre. And I feel like there's a lot of reasons why this could be. And I don't want to start naming them off yet. I'm sure we'll start talking about them.
Yeah, well, actually, why don't let's get into this angle. One thing I haven't mentioned yet is Marco Rubio. And, you know, because Eric Davis, right, he was talking about briefing the Senate committees and all of this. And so what is that all about? Well, that goes back to this guy. He's on the cover of our thumbnail image. And this adds to this overall just weirdo situation that we got going on here, because Marco Rubio is, okay, so he's a Florida state senator, right? But he also chairs the Senate Intelligence Committee, and they were briefed on this, and he actually has some quotes about this exact subject, and he's talking about the Russians and the Chinese. In fact, I have let me see, I have a little clip here I can throw on the screen, which is one of the quotes that he has, if I can find it here. And I'll go ahead and pop this up. And so this is Marco Rubio. Now, I've slightly edited this comment because it was much longer and it wasn't very eloquent. So slightly edited, but this is the gist of the comment that he made. And he basically says, frankly, if it's something outside this planet, that might actually be better than some technological leap by the Chinese or Russians or some other adversary. And so then we get into this thing right here. And so Roots, the Chinese, the Russians, the North Koreans, what about this? Is there any possibility that this technology that they're talking about could be some kind of breakthrough technology that one of these other countries, I mean, we think everything has to happen in the United States. But if you go back and look at like the invention of the automobile, like it really happened in Germany. Like there's certain inventions that don't happen here. We like to think everything happens in the USA. Is there any possibility that China could have some unbelievably incredible technology that they're seeing with like these Tic Tac UFOs?
Absolutely. I mean, that's what a lot of the UFO sightings over time have been, right? Have been us seeing stuff that our own government was testing or using. Why we can't assume that the Chinese or the Russian aren't doing stuff with their technology. There's probably a good chance of it, you know. they've been dumping tons of money into their research, and who knows what the hell they're doing right now.
Skiva, what do you think about that? Do you think it's possible Russian, Chinese, or any other?
Of course it's possible. But my question would be then, where did these people get this technology? Where did the Chinese develop the technology for anti-gravity vehicles, for flying Tic Tacs, if you will, right? Where would the Russians get this stuff? So, I mean, I'm sure there's obviously a lot of people working on all this stuff all the time, but I find that it's a little bit more believable that maybe something was recovered somewhere, and that it was reverse engineered to make some of this stuff happen. And I think that's an extremely good possibility. And, maybe one of the possibilities of why all this stuff is coming up. If some of these countries are using some, reverse engineered alien tech, maybe then it's time for our government to come out and say, yo, all right, well, we gotta come clear a little bit with some of this stuff, because you're going to be seeing some other governments using some of this stuff.
Interesting.
Maybe
interesting.
they're going to.
So that there's that theory right there that they know that China or Russia has this technology, and they're deliberately linking this information to try to force China to come clean with it or something. I mean, I don't know. It seems
not necessarily come clean with it, right? Let's say China or Russia is going to use this stuff. They don't care what U.S. says. U.S. comes and goes, no, if you use this stuff, people will know there's UFOs and blah, 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 And China or Russia might be like, screw you, don't care. You know what I mean? We're going to do what we're going to do. So then maybe at that point, the U.S. is like, all right, these guys are going to start using some of this stuff. Maybe they're going to start disclosing it to some of their citizens. I really doubt it. But, at that point, the U.S. would kind of have their hands forced, if you will, to kind of start putting some of this stuff out there. So it's not like a big blow to the people receiving the information, right? If one of these things come, like I live in Phoenix, and in Phoenix, right before I moved here, there was a thing where this giant mothership came over the Phoenix city. Phoenix is huge, man. It's huge, and 10,000 people saw this mothership, hovering over Phoenix. This isn't Joe Blow town, of 10 people. This is Phoenix, Arizona, man. And there's this giant UFO hovering over the city. So, I mean, I think there's going to be a time here where things are going to have to start getting some answers, and the U.S. isn't a country necessarily that can shut up all the rest of the countries, right? I mean, if China's going to put something out, or they're going to use something that they shouldn't because they feel it's time, then the U.S. has to be able to say, well, all right, and then we have to start bringing some of this information out little by little, so it kind of, matches up, I guess.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that, actually, because there is a rumor. I'm going to try to look it up real quick here. Russian Prime Minister. Disclosure UFO, because there's a rumor that the Russian Prime Minister said something about that the U.S. Maybe a former Russian Prime Minister said that the USA needs to disclose UFOs very soon, or we're going to do it. But that was on like a UFO rumor type website, so I don't know how seriously to take that. But.
Well, and if you look at a lot of this footage that keeps coming out, right? It's fighter jets and stuff like that locking on to some of these UFOs and chasing them around. Now, let me ask you a question: if China or Russia, if they had planes up there, or and they happen to see and were able to chase a UFO and lock onto it, don't you think it's a pretty good chance that China or Russia would shoot the thing down, or at least try to, and then recover what they found? I mean, I think the U.S. would probably do the same thing too. But I mean, these are countries that don't have the best morals when it comes to some of these things. You know what I mean? So I feel like if we're tracking these things and we're following them around in jet fighters, chances are that these vehicles aren't just coming over to the U.S. They're exploring the whole planet, right? Why would they just come over and hang out over here at the United States? I'm sure it's all over the place. We've seen UFO sightings all over the world. And if, something crashed somewhere or was shot down somewhere, how long is it going to be until that technology starts getting used? And you have to say something because it's going to be blatantly obvious that it didn't come from us.
Yeah, that's an interesting angle. And this video that we have on the screen right now, this is what was called the Go Fast clip, which was basically like this drone type thing that was flying over the water. And you can see here, this is the Raytheon advanced targeting forward-looking infrared camera that they have attached to like the F-18 jets. And at the very beginning of this clip, it tries to lock onto the object, can't do it. Tries again, can't do it. And then like the third or fourth time, it actually does lock on. And you can hear, like, this is it right here. It tries to lock on, didn't lock on. Moves, tries to lock on again, missed it again. Moves, tries to lock on, missed again, and then bam, now it's locked. And then you can hear the guys talk about, yeah, we got it, it's locked on, it's locked on. And they're like laughing and giggling and like, oh my God, what is this thing? How fast is it flying? But if we go over here, this is that actual advanced targeting forward-looking infrared, ATF LIR, made by Raytheon Technologies. Of course, you want to talk about millions and billions of dollars. But yeah, this is, I guess they're putting it to good use.
Right? Raytheon, and as far as I know, Raytheon and the other company that these people are involved in, what was that company called? Lockheed Martin, right? These people do the same stuff. Am I wrong?
Yeah, they're all involved in it.
So if they're involved with this stuff, just makes sense that Lockheed Martin would be a part of all this.
Roots, why don't I go to you real quick? And one of the things that I've heard from a lot of skeptics, because as we start to get all this information, you do have skeptical people that are like, they're starting to scratch their arms a little bit. Their upper lip is getting a little bit sweaty. They're starting to worry a little bit because it's very hard to sweep a lot of this stuff under the rug. I mean, we're seeing video that was either you got to believe, like if you really want to believe that there isn't something that's coming to our planet, whether it's interdimensional, whether it's ultra-terrestrial. This does not have to be extraterrestrial, by the way. And we're going to talk about that. There's such a thing as ultra-terrestrial. There's also interdimensional. But if something's coming and the Pentagon is releasing videos on this and they're saying, yeah, this is our video. Yes, it's a physical thing that was moving through the sky at incredible speeds. How do you deal with that if you're a skeptic? Well, a lot of skeptics are going with this idea. They're saying that the military-industrial complex, which is something that Skiva was just talking about, that Aerojet, Aerospace, Raytheon, all these different companies that are working on these types of things. You got the military-industrial complex, and if we don't have a proper boogeyman, then you don't get trillions upon trillions of dollars in the budget every year. Now that we have Marco Rubio, he's questioning whether the Russian or Chinese. Like, I hope Russians and Chinese don't have this. I hope it is some alien thing because that would worry us more. So are they like gearing it up? Are they oiling it up for those trillions of dollars to pour into Raytheon and everybody so they can deal with this advanced alien threat?
Well, that makes sense. I mean, in some respect, they do, the government is notorious for having that empty hole that they say money goes towards. NASA was that hole for so many years. We kind of lost faith in NASA for the most part. Space Force comes out and now they're starting to drum up this threat. And I thought it's interesting. I found a couple of articles recently about viruses from space. And they're kind of theorizing, which kind of freaks me out because it kind of I could totally see that this whole new virus from space and people afraid of the COVID. Imagine if something was from space. But I'm seeing several articles that are kind of intimating that. And what better way to get funding than to have a boogeyman, especially one that we feel like, because we're right now, if you said aliens are coming from outer space, we got to redo everything, right? Like, everything we have is no longer viable. We have to like just start spending tons of money to build all sorts of shit. So,
and we got plenty of money to burn, right? Okay, Skiva, let me go to you really quick though. This idea that we need a new boogeyman, and so that's what this is all about. It's the military-industrial complex. They need trillions upon trillions. They need a new boogeyman. So now it's time for the new alien boogeyman. The problem I have with this idea is, isn't China a pretty freaking good boogeyman right about now? I mean, they're in the news with every little app they got being banned, and like, you know, they're running the 5G transmitters and they're reporting back to the China mother base. I mean, don't we have a pretty freaking good boogeyman?
I think we do. We got quite a few good boogeymen, actually. I mean, you know, look at North Korea. That's a pretty good boogeyman. But you know, there's the angle that, you know, we're kind of used to these countries and these people and these evils, if you will. And you know, if you want to do some distracting and you want to funnel money a certain way, then maybe you bring in something new and exciting that people will be like, yeah, spend money on that because that's awesome.
Well, you know,
UFOs, but
also maybe it's something to do with like the younger generation, because the younger generation that is really, you know, they're really into social media and everything. It almost seems like they're less apt to buy into this boogeyman concept of these other countries, you know, and it's almost like, no, we're like this one world and everybody's together, and we don't, like, I don't know that the younger generation looks at China as a possible threat or Russia as this threat or North Korea as much. And so maybe the government, like maybe the people that are on the inside of this thing, they feel like they don't have enough support to just continue to have regular terrestrial based threats. We now need to have some kind of advanced alien threat. Could be a possibility. But let's get into a different little subject here for a second. So we always talk about extraterrestrial. And of course, well, one quick rant I have to do though, just because it popped into my head. This drives me crazy every time I hear this. I'm sure there's people that are in chat right now. I guarantee you we've got a couple of skeptics in chat that don't believe any of this, but they're fans of maybe one of our VR shows, so they like to tune in every once in a while and just see what the hell we're talking about, right? And I bet you one of these skeptics will say that the first thing that they always say, like this is this is Neil deGrasse Tyson, anybody like that. The first thing that they say is, the distance is just too great. It's just too great. No one can come here from out there. It's just too far. You don't get it, simpleton. You don't get how far these distances are. You know, that's basically what like Neil deGrasse Tyson and all these people will go to, right? And I want to reach through the internet.
Will they though?
Huh?
I don't know if they will, because in, you know, quantum physics is starting to pull through some really interesting stuff. You know, they've been able to teleport, you know, electrons from place to place. They've been able to remote control electrons over vast distances that should be impossible. There's a lot of things that we don't understand that work. So, you know, I feel like
well, yeah, there's that.
man,
If
I
you
feel
get
like
into
it's a lot
if you
of
get
stuff.
into quantum mechanics, there's that. But the other thing, like the point I always want to argue whenever I hear people say this, is like, you're telling me that our human civilization at some point in the future, like 2,000 years from now, 3,000 years from now, you're telling me we're not going to make a spaceship that is multi-generational, that is basically like a city in space, that is moving through space, but it's a city, and people grow up, they're born, they live their entire lives, they die, their children move on, all on a ship that is moving through space. Is that impossible? Like,
No, I don't think so. So we're making something kind of similar to that right now, right? So if you follow SpaceX at all, love my SpaceX, you will see that they are designing the Mars Spaceship right now, and it's a huge ship that's going to have movie theaters and restaurants, and people will have their own rooms. It's going to be like a cruise ship, but way bigger, right? Because these people are going to have to be on that ship for 6 months or 3 months, depending on, you know, how fast we can get by the time we we take off. But I mean, this is something that we're already designing. You know, they just tested the Starhopper, which should take us to the moon to build a base. So I think really soon here, you know, we're going to be in a interplanetary species. You know, it could be another reason why some of this stuff is coming out. We are legitimately going to start messing around in space. You know, we have Space Force now with their Star Trek logo. You know, we got stuff we got to start looking at. Who's going to make the laws on these new planets? Who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? So there is definitely a possibility, you know, for a big ass spaceship like the one SpaceX is designing for the Mars mission, you know, where people will just be born on that ship and they will just explore. You know, they'll just be cruising around for who knows how long. I think that's a very, very good possibility.
Of course, for something like that to happen, though, you would have to, like, whatever the energy source is that is powering that ship, like, you've got to have a steady supply. Like, do you have an endless supply of energy? Because, like, if you're just moving through uncharted space and you don't, like, I mean, but maybe you can look ahead and see different planets and you can analyze and say, this planet has liquid water and maybe we just need liquid water to power it or something like that. But you're going to need...
There's a lot of stars.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stars out there. There's a lot of solar. There's a lot of energy. There's a lot of dark energy. There's a lot of things that we just haven't figured out how to utilize yet. You know, like look back at the days of Nikola Tesla, where he was able to walk out on a stage and hold light bulbs in his hand and illuminate them. You know, the dude was able to figure out wireless power, and obviously he was whacked for it. But you know, there's things that we don't get, and maybe we have found some of these off-world vehicles. Maybe we have worked long enough on them to reverse engineer how they're pulling some of this power out of thin air.
And
you know?
one other thing we need to consider too, in terms of like, oh, it's too freaking far. You could never do it. It's too freaking far. Well, haven't we sent things out into space? We've sent things out into space, right? That have like a gold record that shows like the human body and stuff and all that. And isn't that just going to continue to go and continue to go and continue to go? And our next episode here on Dark Frequencies is about artificial intelligence. And we're going to, because we're Dark Frequencies, we like to cover kind of the dark side of it. So we're going to be talking about runaway artificial intelligence and can you control artificial intelligence and things like that. But if you think about our future, we're going to send, like, are we going to send human beings to some of these planets? No. Why not send some type of robot avatar first? You send a robot avatar that's controlled by AI or whatever. You could have self-replicating AI. Like there's some kind of thought experiment here where you create a self-replicating AI where it could land on a planet. It creates multiple ships. Those move out. They create multiple ships. Those move out. I've seen videos on this. I don't have the exact stuff in front of me here, but the idea is that an advanced civilization at a certain level would basically be able to send these probes across the galaxy, you know, exponentially. They would just multiply by billions and they'd be everywhere. And these probes could be here invisibly, reporting on things in the atmosphere. It's the same kind of thing we would do. If we found some planet out there that had life, we would send some probe. It would be invisible. It'd be floating around. It'd be analyzing the temperature, analyzing the soils, doing all kinds of things.
Well, look at the Mars rovers. For decades, we've been sending rovers to Mars. Now, we're not to the point yet where we can outfit that with, you know, completely self-running artificial intelligence. But, you know, be damn sure that when we can, we will. You know, we've been sending things places to collect samples of the dirt and to collect, you know, atmospheric data and to figure out the weather. And so we're definitely going to do that.
So Roots, what do you think about these different arguments that they say in terms of, I mean, here we're arguing against it. Can you make an argument for them and say, no, it really is too far? Or are you kind of with us on this one?
No, I'm with you. I mean, I just interdimensional travel doesn't take into consideration the distance that becomes not. You don't even have to worry about it, you know, with the fold of space. So I don't know. I think that it is very possible.
Well, you just brought that point up, interdimensional. So, like, we're so focused on extraterrestrial. We're so focused that these are aliens coming from some Zeta Reticuli or something like that. What if, because if you look at string theory, and string theory is not proven, okay? So we can't, like, these are just theories that might be right. There's theories that, there's evidence that suggests that it has a chance, right? And so in string theory, now people get caught up on this, but if you get into string theory, there has to be like a certain number of dimensions. And it's between like, I don't want to get into the exact number because somebody will be like, oh, you're wrong by one dimension. It's in between like 9 and 14 dimensions or something, whatever, right? But you have to have these additional dimensions. And so what about the possibility? Because a lot of times when we see these craft, it almost seems like they're blinking in and out of our reality. And Tom DeLonge, when he was on with Joe Rogan, he kind of explained that a lot of that had to do with how they're warping, they like warp space-time around the ship. And that's why it appears like it's blinking in and out of our reality. But I always thought, well, man, maybe these things are coming from some other dimension. And sometimes they're like halfway in between. And that's why they're like, they look like, sometimes like you see UFO videos and sometimes the UFOs are like, they're like swarming into each other and then popping out and making bigger. And it seems like, what the F is this thing? Like, you can't have a spaceship that goes into like 3 little orange balls and then comes back to get like I don't know. I find it hard to believe that anybody could ever build something like that. But if it's some kind of dimensional effect that's making it look like that, what do you think about interdimensional entities? And do we have to worry about these things?
I don't know if we have to worry about them, but I definitely think that's more probable than extraterrestrial. And just the different dimensions, like even the Mandela effect that we talked about last week, supports multiple dimensions and all the different things going on. So who knows? Maybe they're from, like some people said that they could be like an advanced form of ourselves and coming back and checking. Maybe there's time travel. I don't know, but it appears to me that they're traveling that way versus the distance of space, and that would solve all of those issues of how far things are when you're just going from one dimension to the next. And maybe it's just as simple as having a flux capacitor up there, whatever they call it, that lets you travel through that wormhole from one dimension to the next, and you're kind of skipping over all that distance. So,
well, see, the thing I'm thinking about with an interdimensional, I'm thinking that they're right here. They're here. They're just existing in another like they don't have to go in any wormhole. They just have to go from their dimension into our like if we had the ability to see all these other dimensions, they might just be right freaking there. There could be dead people standing all around me, and I just can't see them. Because they're like in some other kind of like I mean, I know that sounds like woo woo crazy, but I mean, it's within the realm.
It could be dead people. It could be not dead people. You know what I mean? Like it could be other versions of yourself that are just slightly off from this one. In each dimension things are a little bit different. Just like Ruth said, we were talking about the Mandela effect before, where things may be possibly slipping between dimensions. So if that's a possibility, there's no doubt that a possibility could be that these ships go from dimension to dimension. Maybe there's a dimension next to us that we've already made contact with these things. They've come down, they've given us technology, and we're all homies high-fiving.
Joe Rogan has definitely contacted these other dimensions when he's on DMT. He always talks about that. But Skiva.
Yeah, man,
Okay, I want to ask you something, Skiva, about Roots brought it up, time travelers. So here's the thing about time travel. Like the way I've always understood it, because like Einstein, his stuff is pretty freaking rock solid. Like most of Einstein's stuff is pretty effing legit.
Theory of relativity and
according to Einstein, the idea that you could travel back in time, like as far as I understood it, is just like not even like you can't like forget about it. Like it ain't happening. Like that's what I always heard. Now, of course, our understanding of the world is so simple right now. You think about humans 5,000 years from now, they're going to know things that we're going to be unbelievably dumb compared to wherever they're at that point. Sure. But the theory is you can't go backwards in time. The theory is you might be able to go forwards in time, But if you go forwards in time, you might end up in a different place, really. What do you think about this idea? Because like Joe Rogan, he'll float this idea as well. Like one of the things that he talks about with aliens, he talks about how they're skinny, they're hairless, they don't really have a mouth or anything. And he's thinking like these could be like humans in like millions of years, just what we evolve into. Like we don't need all these big muscles. We got this big giant head with a big giant brain, and we don't really eat food the same way. So we got a little slit for a mouth.
Yeah, I mean evolution, right? It absolutely could be. It could be evolution, and we have turned into these things, and we're coming back, or maybe over from another dimension to check on us and make sure we haven't blown ourselves up yet, something like that. But at the same time, those could also be suits. You know what I mean? Like look at haptic suits coming up, like the Tesla suit, for example, right? I see so many other opportunities for something like that other than virtual reality, where a Tesla suit is a skin tight suit that you can feel things happen in VR, it tracks your body language and all that stuff. But at the same time, it also regulates temperature. It regulates how you feel, as far as you can make you hot, it can make you cold. So why wouldn't we all be wearing, instead of air conditioning these huge buildings, why wouldn't we be wearing our own small climate controlled suits, giant helmets, maybe with these big eye things? There's so many possibilities, man. There's just so many possibilities.
Yeah, well, one possibility that I've heard recently is this, and this is an idea of ultra terrestrial. And so what is ultra-terrestrial? It's kind of weird that this idea gets almost no love whatsoever, but like if you go to Occam's razor, this might be the best one of them all. And so basically ultra-terrestrial basically means this: there's some other thing that lives on Earth, we just aren't aware of it. But now we're seeing little bits and pieces of it. So the idea is that now these things don't necessarily need to be human, but maybe they are. They could be human possibly. And so you could have what would essentially be a breakaway civilization, almost like an Atlantis or something, some type of civilization that maybe went subterranean. It might have went underground, and it might also be in the oceans. So you think about planet Earth. Planet Earth is what, like 80% water, 90% water when you compare it to like the land masses, right? It's primarily oceans. So if you're an advanced civilization, like sometimes like when the UFOs come down, they seem to like go right into the ocean. They're not even worried about land mass and stuff. Like if you were some alien from some other world coming to Earth, I mean, it's all blue. You're thinking, yeah, I'm going to make my civilization in all this blue area. There's so much more of that. So what if there's like an ultra-terrestrial civilization here on our planet that is under the oceans, possibly subterranean, and they just avoid us like the effing plague. They don't want to get anywhere near us. They don't want to talk to us, disturb us or anything. They're doing their own little shit. And now our technology has gotten to a certain point with this like forward-looking infrared. Like, do you know that some of the stuff that we've seen on some of this footage, you couldn't see it with the naked eye. You had to have it on forward, like it was invisible. Like they're using stealth technologies. So now that we have more advanced technologies, we're starting to see some of this stuff. So there's this idea of ultra-terrestrials. And so Roots, I'm going to go to you. Who is the guy that says we're being controlled by lizard people? Maybe he was right all along. Maybe they really are underground.
David Icke, right? I don't know. It's definitely interesting to think about, because we have so many movies that do pre-programming, right, or predictive programming. And how many movies do we, like Time Machine, or they've got some other race, right, living under the earth and or under the ocean or whatever. I mean, I could see it. I mean, I my only big problem with that is like you'd have to be ultra stealth for nobody to see, unless the Sasquatch is the few sightings that people see of what they look like. But somehow they've hidden it for a long time. But like you said, maybe it's just the technology. That's one of the things that people don't realize, how quickly we are learning. They say daily we're doubling our technology, right? Isn't that what they say now at this point? It used to be like every year, before it was like every 10
18
years.
months. Yeah.
Whatever it is. And so if we're learning, and I'm seeing all sorts of articles on everything across the board, it's all about how we're finding this out, we're finding that out. So it is absolutely conceivable that maybe we start to notice some kind of signature or something going on that makes us focus a little bit more. And maybe these entities don't want to be seen, then we run into a problem. I don't know.
Skiva, one thing I've wondered about, because they'll talk about like these like lost civilizations that were even more advanced than we are now. And the problem I have with that is, where are their freaking plasma TVs and stuff? Like we should be digging through the ground, man, and we should be finding iPhones and tablets, bro,
I don't know, man. I don't necessarily agree with that. I feel like just because they were advanced doesn't mean they were consumers. They might have, this is a huge rabbit hole that I feel like I got to be really careful, because I could stick on this for a while. But there's a lot of stuff out there that says, hey, maybe the ancient Egyptians used the pyramids as a power source, and maybe the Mayans merged with the world's energy and vanished. There's so many different weird things. We're finding strange structures now as global warming becomes a thing and Antarctica starts to melt, and now we're finding structures under the ice there that no one's ever seen
That's
before.
the Nazis, bro.
Nazis.
There's actually there is this like if you guys really want to go off the reservation here, I don't include this as one of the possibilities, but there are people that straight up buy into this like whole hog, this idea that in Nazi Germany, they actually had recovered UFO. Like they had crashed UFO technology, and they were doing like this Bell thing and all this stuff. And then so like as they started to realize like we're going to lose the war, even though they happen to have alien technology, they're going to lose the war, right? So they realize they're going to lose the war. And so like a whole gang of Nazis bounced over to Antarctica, and they've basically been living in Antarctica, creating advanced civilizations in Antarctica, kind of like Superman's palace. And then every once in a while they fly to the moon, and there's Nazi flags on the moon and shit.
Right. Yeah, because Nazis are super smart people.
Well, their scientists basically was freaking NASA. Their entire scientist was basically NASA. So yeah, they got you on that one.
I don't know. I love the whole David Icke thing. I think that guy is freaking awesome, right? Like, I think the craziest thing that he has going for him is the whole reptilian thing that lives underground. But hey, who the hell knows, right? Like gaming science teacher said in chat, we're still discovering species here on our own planet. We're going down deeper and deeper into the ocean, and we're finding things we've never seen before. We go into the rainforest, which we've pretty much mostly destroyed, and we're still finding things that are there that we hadn't discovered before. So who's to say that something that wants to hide isn't gonna it's gonna hide? You know what I mean? We can't find everything. We haven't X-rayed the Earth. You know what I mean? So these are all possibilities that you could absolutely go down this wild rabbit hole and explore. Do I want there to be reptilian people underground? Not really, but you never know.
What if they're nice?
Yeah, maybe they are nice, and they know that we're nuking each other.
Do you guys
here,
remember the
right?
TV
like,
show?
I'm not going up there.
Remember the TV show V, like the original,
Yes.
the original one? Do you remember the episode when the baby came out and it was a lizard baby? That was so freaking awesome. I love that. I was like a 10-year-old kid or something. I don't know how old I was.
I loved V.
That was a good series.
Yeah, they brought it back, and it was pretty good, and it failed, which is too bad.
Okay, so one of the things I did, guys, because now we're at the point of this episode where we're just kind of like considering possibilities. Like if disclosure, I mean, it kind of seems like disclosure is underway, but like the people that demand the facts, they're not going to be satisfied until like we start landing ships on the ground and everything. But I came up with a bunch of different questions to think about. And I just have a bunch of different random questions that we can consider. Okay, so one question I have is, this is for Roots and Skiva is, are there biological entities that are on these ships, or do these things have to be some type of like AI drone robot type thing? Because like when we talk about some of the maneuvers that these ships are making, dropping from 80,000 feet to sea level in a fraction of a second, these type of maneuvers, not only would the human body just freaking explode across everywhere, like just like in the microwave, like, you know, I mean, it just wouldn't work out too well for the human body when you're traveling with those kinds of G-forces. Not only that, but supposedly our equipment couldn't even survive. Like the equipment that would be flying the ship would not survive these G-forces. So what do you think is going on as far as what's on the on these craft? Are there biological entities? Because one of the possibilities I heard is like Tom DeLonge kinds of talks about this like warping of space and time around the craft. And so even though they're having these unbelievable maneuvers that would just rip apart any human flesh or any biological organism, for the creatures inside, they're not being affected because they're in this like space-time bubble. Have you heard of that, Skiva? What do you think about that?
I haven't. I think it's really interesting. I feel like that's definitely a possibility. You know, you look at the beginning stages of technology that we're using here on Earth. You know, you got Virgin, who is using a hyperloop now, where they suck all the air and the gravity out of a tube, and then they have you know, a thing that you get in and it just shoots you through this tube at ridiculous speeds. You know, we're starting to figure out how to do some of these things that in normal gravity would really hurt people. And I have to believe that if things are coming here from another place, they've got this all figured out. Right. There's, you know, the whole thing with wrapping.
Okay, wait a minute though. If they have
and,
everything figured out, why are they crashing? That's one of the things a skeptic will say is like, how the hell are these things crashing? They can fly.
Well, we don't know if they crashed or if they were shot down or, you know,
but shot
I mean,
down as well. That
there is nothing.
Wouldn't they have better force fields and
perfect.
you know?
Well, sure, but there's nothing is perfect, right? I mean, I you know, the most advanced, smartest person on this planet still makes mistakes. So if you have craft coming here all the time, right, with the amount of sightings that we see all the time, what are the chances that one or two of these things have gone down somehow? You know, that something happened with their machines that would cause a crash. I think it's absolutely, I think it's totally feasible. Totally feasible.
Okay. Roots, I'm going to go to you with a different question. You know, I've got a bunch of these random questions that I was going to consider if disclosure was really to happen, which it kind of seems to appear to have begun here. One of the things that we talk about is like, what is it going to take for everybody to be like, fuck, this truly is real? And like, one of the things that we've thought about is like UFOs landing. Like some people believe that the reason that we're getting disclosure now, 70 years later, with 70 years of secrecy, where they would never say anything about anything like this, and then all of a sudden, yeah, man, go ahead. UFOs are real. Let's put it in the LA Times. It's no big deal. Let's release videos. It's kind of a weird thing, right? But people are saying that they're still not going to believe it until like UFOs actually land. And there's some people that think our government is in contact with these beings, and maybe these beings have given them a deadline saying, yo, we're landing on such and such a date, or, you know, on New Year's 1st, 2021, that is the UFO day. We're going to land everywhere. You know, I mean, how crazy is that? It sounds like a sci-fi movie, right?
Well, yeah, it does sound like a sci-fi movie, but it could be possible. You know, I mean, there's a lot of things that have been going on. Like I said, all of a sudden Space Force was admitted and brought into it as a real entity. You know, there's a lot of weird stuff been going on with all the things that check space. I don't know if you guys know it, but every telescope around the world that's ran by government agencies are shut down, even the ones that are manned by one person because of the COVID. And like I was saying to chat earlier, you know, there's things coming like that last comet that was super bright. They said they just found that last month, you know, and I don't know how that's possible unless they really can't see, or maybe they knew it was coming. And there's a lot of stuff. A lot of people believe there's a lot of meteors or comets coming for debris, and maybe that's involved as well. So I don't know. I can see it for sure.
What?
This is something I'd love to chime in on, because this is the one part that I don't buy at all. And I don't want to piss anyone off here, but I truly feel that if there are aliens coming and checking us out, that they are not going to come down and talk to our leaders and do all this stuff. Like, let's face it. All right, let's say we all hopped on a spaceship and we went out and we found some planet that was full of life. And we're watching right before we go down there, and they're shooting each other and they're killing each other, and they're thousands and thousands of people are coming to this country and murdering each other, and nukes are going off. Would you go down there? Because I wouldn't go down there. I wouldn't go talk to any of those people. You know what I mean? I'd be like, no, this race is not mature enough yet to know that there's anything else out there for us to start sharing anything with them, because they'll take this technology and they'll kill themselves with it. So I truly don't believe that there's anything out there contacting and chilling with our governments. I just don't think we're mature enough for that.
I promise we'll do better.
What if they can't even communicate with us? Like, we can't communicate with our dogs. I mean, here we are, we're advanced beings on our planet, we are, and we have these dogs that we love. We haven't been able to come up with a special dog language to tell them, okay, go outside and do your business right now, because I'm leaving for 10 hours. Just chill in the backyard and don't bark, because I'll be back. We can't communicate with ants or anything else. How do we know that, like, these aliens are going to even be able to communicate with us? Sometimes we see some of these movies, like, what was the one movie where they had to, like, come up with an idea of how they're going to communicate, and it was a recent movie. I forget what it was called.
It was a recent movie.
But I don't know that it's going to be so freaking easy.
Yeah. Well, I don't think so either. But I think a civilization that can come here is, you know, we have satellites everywhere, right? And everything we do is going through these satellites. The easiest thing would be to just tap into these satellites, figure out our language, maybe make some kind of program that will auto translate.
But we can't figure out.
We got Google Translate.
We can't figure out a dolphin's language or a we're related to chimpanzees.
We're not traveling light speed. We're not warping through solar systems, right? If something is coming here, it's evolved past the point that we have at this point in time, I think. And
The Arrival. Yeah, that was the movie.
Oh, The Arrival. Yeah. Yeah, that was good. But yeah, how would we talk to them? I don't know. But we as humans have, Google Translate. I'm able to go to other countries, hold my phone out, I talk, it shows up in their language, they talk, it shows up in mine, and we are probably peons to whatever these things are. Right. So yeah. I would really think that they would have a way to communicate with us. I mean, I would think that math is a universal language. I think that would be the least of their concerns.
Well, Elon Musk, I mean, they're talking about brain-computer interfaces, right? And he was talking on Joe Rogan's show saying that, I mean, way too aggressively, this is not going to happen, but like in 5 years, you're not going to need words to communicate. More like 50 years maybe. But yeah, so, I mean, maybe they could just like send a signal right to our cerebral cortex where we just automatically understand what they're trying to convey to us. It sounds like freaking hocus pocus, but so does all this brain-computer interface stuff as well. So there's a lot of other considerations to think about if this stuff did happen. And one consideration we have is oil and energy. So Roots, one of the things that I've always heard when it comes to why you never want to disclose this is because, it'd cause riots in the streets and all that. But another one is that so many countries around the world, they are ran on this like petroleum-based infrastructure, basically. And it's like this oil-based reality. And so how will the oil and energy industries, will this just like crater the stock market? And like what is going to happen here?
if aliens are coming, I don't know that it would necessarily affect the oil and energy field as far as that goes, or what. I guess clarify, why would that
Well, the
affect it? I
theory
don't
would
know,
be
maybe.
that is they've obviously got stuff that is beyond our understanding in terms of how they're moving around, and it's whatever's powering their vehicles appears to have, it's not like a combustion, there's no like it
They're not
yeah,
burning
it
fossil
just
fuels.
doesn't seem like they're using an energy like it would seem like if this is revealed to be absolutely true, then it's like, okay, well, now solve the freaking energy crisis, because like they've obviously freaking solved it, whatever they're doing. We just need to get their information. Do you think it's possible that an advanced alien civilization would give us this information? Like, let's say they do have some way to communicate with us, and we were to say, look, we're in a real bind here. We've got this global warming problem. Could you guys hook us up with a little bit of that secret sauce, and let us know how you're powering your ships and everything? Give us a little bit of some physics lessons. Do you think that they would do that?
Well, as long as they can, as long as the global warming, or I guess not, as long as they can make money on it, our governments, they're not going to let it happen. We've seen how they bury technology. Unless the aliens came down and presented it to the people outside of the governments, and somehow they could prevent it from getting stopped. The only reason, the big thing about global warming is they want to charge companies credits. They want to make money on the carbon credits you got to buy to produce your materials, So, I mean, that's still about money. It's all about money. And I think unless we can get away from that, I don't know that there'd be any way that they could give us that technology without it being squashed. And, Tesla is a perfect example. And there's many examples like him where they came out with something amazing that we're not even sure what they came out with really, and it got squashed, so.
Skiva, what about this? Another question. Well, another one of the major reasons they say why this isn't going to happen is because of the world's religions. That if all of a sudden you have UFOs landing, this is a reality, there's aliens out there, then these aliens could say that we don't have a God, or there's a different God, or all your shit is wrong and it didn't work like this. And so some of these religions would, some people believe that some of these religions would just immediately collapse upon this announcement. But you have stuff like the Vatican, where they've been preparing for this for a long time, and they've come out and made official statements and said, look, if there's aliens, see, I think the Vatican knows, like they already know, like the Vatican knows some shit. And so I think they know, and so they're like, we already know, so we're going to come out ahead of this and say, look, this doesn't mess with the Bible or anything we're talking about. This is just another creature that God created. It's just when we had the Bible, they didn't necessarily get into this aspect, but this doesn't violate anything. What do you think about the world's religions?
Well, oh boy, this is a subject that scares me to even talk about, but I truly, I don't know. As far as the Bible is concerned specifically, I truly believe that it's been altered, that things have been taken out of it. But let's look at it from this point of view. We all remember War of the Worlds, the movies, but back in the day it was a radio broadcast. And when they broadcast that, they didn't come, it was a radio show, right? So people tuning in the middle had no idea if this was actual news happening or if it was just a story. But a lot of people freaked out, man, and there was suicides, there was all kinds of craziness that happened. Right nowadays, I feel like it's a little different. We have the internet. We've all been communicating now in light speed for quite some time. We all have data and information right in front of us at any time. We have all this information on UFOs. We've been almost desensitized towards it, if you will. So this might be, it might not turn out the same way as War of the Worlds did. People back then had no idea that UFOs could even be a thing. They never considered this stuff. There was no internet to talk to each other. There was, you can call somebody, but you only got one person on the phone, right? So it's a little It's a little crazy, but as far as the fuel thing goes, obviously they're not stopping at a gas station, at Zeta Reticuli to fuel up real quick and then make the rest of their journey. They obviously have some tech here, right? That maybe we don't have, or maybe we do have it now. You know what I mean? Like we've gotten into this conversation that things maybe have crashed here. We've reversed engineered things. That now we have possibly different governments that have ships that could be misidentified.
There is a patent.
As off-world vehicles.
There's a patent that the Department of Defense has that's like related to like these plasma weird ass technologies. It's kind of interesting, one of the patents they have. But I wanted to bring up what somebody had here in chat. Terry Blanchard. So regarding like religions, are religions going to collapse off of this information? And he says too many people believe that if they believe in aliens, they can't believe in God. Hogwash. But the only thing I would say to that, though, is that, so here's the thing. I believe in aliens, and I would consider myself agnostic. So I'm not atheist. I don't believe in like nothingness. I believe that there's something going on. I just have no effing idea what it is. But I believe that there is something that I don't believe in complete and utter randomness, just something popping into existence. No. Something is running the show. I have no effing idea what it is. And I believe in aliens at the same time. And I believe, whoever or whatever, or what this energy source or whatever this thing is that started everything, including the aliens, including the multiple universes, including all of it,
Is it what started and runs the simulation?
That could be it as well, right? Yeah.
Maybe they're coming in, with their computer generated chips, and they're coming to fix some stuff. Who knows? There's definitely a lot of theories.
But here's the problem I would say for Terry Blanchard, though, in terms of why does he think that's such a big deal? Like hogwash, it shouldn't be a big deal. It's kind of a big deal, though, for some of these religions, for some of the religions that have a very tightly knit belief system, that if some new revelation, like for example Mormons, like their whole thing might like there's certain religions that are really not very compatible with this.
I don't know. There are some religions that say that UFOs are not a thing, and it might bust them up. But I really feel like most religions, it could fall in with that. I mean, if there's an all-powerful, that God that is everything that has ever been and ever will be, there, why would that exclude something off of this planet? That wouldn't make any sense. So I feel like it doesn't really mess anything up for most religions. Some of them, sure, because they have specific things about aliens. But I don't know, man. I feel like, it shouldn't even be a consideration.
One other really interesting angle too. We talked about, so there's extraterrestrials, there's ultra-terrestrials, there are interdimensional visitors. What about this? Demons, like biblical. So, like, have you ever seen some of these movies where it's like based on like some kind of rapture or biblical thing, and it's like, most of the people, like a lot of people on planet Earth, they're not true believers in the whole Bible apocalypse and everything, but like, I'm somebody that was raised Catholic, and I read different parts of the Bible and everything, and so some of that stuff is in my background, and like I don't necessarily buy into it, but at the same time, I'm not going to say it's effing impossible. Like one of the powerful things for like Christianity and like Jesus, and like I have a friend, right, and he's into he's like a born again guy and all this stuff, and like whenever I'm talking with him, he's always trying to like convince me to do this or that, or try to get involved with, or try to like join him, and all this type of thing, and we'll kind of argue back and forth. And one of the arguments that he makes, one of the arguments I would make to him is this idea that you like have to believe in Jesus Christ or you're going to hell. And I would say to him, dude, if that's true, like what about somebody that's in Nepal? They grew up in Nepal, they weren't exposed to know Jesus Christ, and then that person dies and they're going to hell. That seems so effing unfair. But one of the things he would reply back to me with is like, the Bible as a pamphlet of material has spread throughout this world. Like, the one thing I will give these people, that information has spread effing everywhere. It is touched, it's reached every shore. It is spread everywhere. So, like, what I'm saying here is like it would be a real shocker to me if ultimately we found out that these things were freaking demonic creatures, and it's like a freaking biblical thing, and this biblical thing is real. Look, I know that sounds kind of crazy to a lot of us that maybe aren't highly religious, but it's not like completely out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah. I don't know. I've read the Bible. I've read quite a few religious books, and I haven't seen anything suggesting that demons or angels or anything would need to come down in ships from other places. But then again,
but it could be misinterpretations, right? Like, we look at the old paintings and stuff, and it almost looks like UFOs. Roots, I'm going to go to you. I know that you do have a belief, and you are spiritual, and you are, you do have a belief in Christianity and stuff like this. And so what do you think about this? Because there's probably other people in your realm that do look at all of this as like evil, satanic, this is demon, but like anytime this UFO stuff comes up, it's like demonic, it's satanic, this is bad, or maybe it could be angels, or who knows? I mean, there's so many possible angles here, but like, what do you, as a believer, where you kind of like this UFO thing maybe as well, or you're interested in it as well, but you have to like think about all this?
No, I've kind of gone from the exact same thought process as you. Is like, if I were to see an alien or whatever, that it would be a demonic being. Makes a lot more sense in my upbringing and in the biblical faith that would be what, I wouldn't be thinking of them as more as traveling, as how they're appearing or whatever the agenda is, which I know that's one of the things that we were going to talk about, which is actually kind of ties into religion, which is the, I can't think of what it is.
Well, you know what? One of the things you're talking about here, Tom DeLonge, like, you know how he has that book, Secret Machines, Secret Machines, but it looks like Secret, right? Well, if you read that entire book, like, it's considered like a nonfiction book, but like, the honest truth is, supposedly he's dropping like everything he freaking knows in that book, but he's like weaving it into this like semi pseudo fictional story. But what he's like, according to what he's found out from these people that are in the know, and that's kind of like what I saw. I saw something, it was just a straight silver thing. It was plain as hell. It was as generic as it freaking gets. But one of the things he was saying about these beings is like, they're parasitic. They're like parasitic. They're like insect-like, and that they feed off negative energy. They feed off our conflict. Like, which I thought, well, if that's true, God damn it, they are having a feast like a mofo right now, here in 2020. If these aliens feed off our conflict and our hate and our bickering and oh my God, they are freaking stuffed right now. They've got so much to eat.
Well, that sounds like what they say demonic beings feed off of. A lot of similarities, and that's where some of it goes with like the gray aliens. The description is what a lot of people see in demonic entities, and then there's the people that have been said that like people get paralysis when they're getting visited by aliens. There's been cases where people have rebuked them in the name of Jesus, and those aliens disappear. So there is stories as far as that goes, and that's what I was going to say about Project Bluebeam. I didn't even know this until I was researching it, but it's all biblical. It's all based on the second coming of the Antichrist, and it's really just the idea that they're going to use a fake alien invasion to usher in the Antichrist, and it basically started in 1994. There was a a researcher named Serge Monast, I think, and another journalist. Both of them were researching, and it was interesting because they both ended up dying within a week of each other of heart attacks, which a lot of people theorize they were assassinated to dissuade their work. But it's like I said, it's more of a, it's supposed to bring in, usher in a universal religion. There's 4 steps. The first step is to cast discredit on the religion, like have discoveries made that are against it, exactly what we were saying, that kind of maybe go up against Christ, and create doubt in the believer to ultimately get them to reject those beliefs. And then you would see, we've been seeing, the second step would be things in the sky. And we've been seeing a lot of those instances, like the spirals, the weird flames, in China, the city in the clouds, just a lot of bizarre apparitions that don't make sense. And a lot of people theorize that those things are they're tests, they're testing, they're getting people ready to see, to show something in the sky that's going to maybe be another Messiah type or an alien. And then the third step is to communicate directly to us through via ELF or VLF waves, LF waves, directly into our brains, and make it feel like it's coming from our soul, like we're hearing our own voices, kind of like a person that's hearing God would think. And then the fourth would be to partially destroy the world's economy, which I thought this is kind of weird because I think that's what's going on now. To instill a digital currency and to completely get rid of cash. And I think they're pushing for us to get away from cash right now. And you're slowly seeing it with this change thing, which is the most bizarre thing. I've never heard of a change shortage, which they could solve by printing more change, right? Today.
Yeah, the change thing is funny.
Wanting to push. Yeah, they seem to be pushing away from cash. And I told somebody the other day, and I said, well, Dutch Brothers and Jiffy Lube don't accept cash anymore. And they said, oh yeah, it's because of the change shortage. And I said, no, bro, they did that like 2 weeks in, before any change shortage. They just stopped accepting cash. So my prediction from
episode 23 is, the money conspiracy.
Yes, we'll be pushed away from cash, and you wait and see. Yeah. We'll see.
Wait,
well, it started a long time ago, right? Our cash used to mean that that note entitled you to a certain gold that was but that is not a thing anymore.
It says you can use it anywhere. They have to accept it, right? It says on the bill, this is for every debt and tender, but you go to a business now and they tell you, no, we're not accepting this. That's not legal, bro.
No, it's not legal. It's not legal.
So wait, let's talk about Project Bluebeam real quick, because this actually is a really interesting thing. Like when I was into UFOs, I heard about this idea, Project Bluebeam, and at first it sounds ridiculous, but the more that you actually look into it, the more you think, of course they're going to try this shit, where they try to basically the idea is that they are projecting onto like the ionosphere of our atmosphere, which it's almost like they can use it like a projector screen. And so they have these really advanced laser projectors. And the idea is this would be a military weapon, because they would be able to go, think about it. You go to the Middle East and you like beam this like vision of Muhammad or something, and you can cause, I mean, who knows what you can cause people to do if it really looks like legit. Like, here's a little example of the type of things that, they're saying they could create these visions in the sky that would look so utterly real. The Chinese floating city. This is something Roots was talking about, the floating city in the sky. I mean, look, this sounds sci-fi like a mofo, but this is the type of shit that DARPA's into, right? That, like, our government, our military is interested in crazy ass shit like this. That is crazy. That city or people in the sky. It's any of these photos are actually real, But there's
China one that 1,000 people saw it, witnessed it all at the same time. There was no way for them to hide that. And I've seen footage. I mean, granted, it's horrible, someone's camera footage, but I believe they really saw that in the sky. And then they try to make it sound like it's a mirage, and some fancy mirage. But my thing is like, I wouldn't we have seen that some sort of city in the sky at some point or something similar throughout our whole life, and now it's just suddenly some mirage that they explain away. I just think it's BS.
Well, one thing I want to go back to real quick is also this idea. So, like we were talking about demons and angels and all these kinds of things, right? And one thing that I've noticed in this UFO phenomenon from the very beginning, and it's always bothered me, it's always caused me problems. Like I've seen freaking UFOs, but this still bothers me. The idea that when you look at like all these old photos of UFOs and old drawings of UFOs, it is always era dependent. It's like time dependent. It's like the UFOs people saw, like look at I Believe, that picture behind Skiva, that particular UFO. Like there was a certain time where all UFOs looked like that, and then in the 60s or 70s or whatever, and now that we're in the years, we're in 2000s and stuff, now we've got these giant black triangles, and it's almost like whatever this phenomenon is, it's like
You're assuming here, Anthony.
Yeah, I'm
that
assuming
they're all the same species coming from the same.
Well, no,
place,
I'm not
and all the
assuming
ships are
that.
supposed to be the same,
I'm
right?
not assuming that. Yeah, there could be a million different things, but wait a minute. I'm not done with this point, because
Okay.
the thing is like you go back to the 1700s, you go back to the 1800s, you had people make drawings. There was like this airship thing that was going on the West Coast where people were seeing airships and stuff. If you watch Ancient Aliens, they do shows on this, but like you see the drawings and it looks like everything was made out of wood, and it was like some like blimp type thing. And so anyway, the reason I have this on here, this is Reddit UFOs, and I just saw this. Leaked ATIP slides and recent comments to Tim McMillan, combined with Jack Valley, make compelling argument UFOs morph depending on era humanity is in. And I'm not saying like this is freaking confirmation, man, and this is like a done deal and this is absolutely legit and everything. But I don't know. This is something that I've noticed as somebody that's been a fan of UFOs for a long time, is that they seem to kind of like, they're talking here about these. There's an example, these airships. Like it's always like exactly like our, it's relative. It's like relative to our technology. Almost like if you look at old UFO shows, UFO things that were done in the 50s and 60s, it's like the technology is always changing. Skiva, so you want to combat this idea. Go ahead. What do you want to say?
Well, sure. So there's the possibility of different aliens from different planets with different technology, but there's also, like our cars from the 50s and 60s don't look like they do now. Our planes don't. A lot of that stuff has changed dramatically. So I feel like it would only make sense for some of these ships and for some of these things to have changed as well.
Yeah, but that's kind of like they're changing with our technology. Doesn't that sound a little suspicious to you?
Oh,
you know what I mean? It's like as we gain technology, it's like all of a sudden the ships are now more technological, because I still think a good portion of what we see or have seen has been our own government running, different things, different ships that they haven't told us about. That we now know that some ships are shaped like triangles, but 10, 20 years ago, we didn't think that they existed because we thought they would have been aliens, but they were really our ships.
Do you think that we have built these from the ground up, or do you think we've taken them from recovered
I don't know.
technologies?
If Roswell is true, I think absolutely we've discovered it and imagined it. But my point is like a lot of these things, they're going along with our technology as far as they're advancing. The 60s, that's what we would have expected to see in the 60s. So
yeah, definitely interesting angles to think about. But you know what? We've been going for a couple of hours here. We're almost done. But I want to cover one more thing, folks, before we bounce out of here. One more question about this phenomenon. And this goes back to basically the idea of Christopher Columbus, okay? Which is this idea. Now, we've heard like Stephen Hawking, we've heard different people bring up this possible idea that if aliens were to come here, if whether they're interdimensional, ultra-terrestrial, whatever they are, if they are some kind of advanced civilization that is coming here, it would be the equivalent of Christopher Columbus landing in the New World. And in this scenario, we're the natives, we're the Indians, okay? And in this scenario, the aliens are Christopher Columbus. And so this advanced unknown technology, it looks mysterious to us. We don't understand it. This is the ending scene of Apocalypto. Really good movie, I think. I think this is actually a damn good movie. If you've never seen it, definitely check this out, even if you hate Mel Gibson's guts. Check it out. It's pretty good. But yeah, the very end of this movie, this guy basically, well, spoilers, he gets away at the very end, but they end up running onto the beach and, you know, the ships are coming in. And hey, it did not work out so well for those natives. So that's what I want to talk about right now with Roots. Are we looking at the end of humanity as we know it, Roots? Like if an alien civilization... You know what's crazy? Actually, let me ask you this, Roots. This is going to sound like straight sci-fi, but is it really that unbelievable? What if we were to have alien contact, legit alien contact happens, they start freaking landing, they come out of their ships, they're communicating with us, they're giving us information, but then somehow, some way, 30 years later, we're basically their effing slaves, and we're basically their slave labor. We're basically the equivalents of all these companies in the United States using like slave labor in China and Singapore and Malaysia, where there's basically sweatshops, you know, like Foxconn, people jumping off the building. They got to put up nets everywhere for all the people that are committing suicide. Are we going to be that cheap Chinese labor for these aliens 30 years? I know it sounds crazily improbable, but who knows? I mean, these are the kind of scenarios that have happened in history, right?
Yeah, well, that definitely is a probable situation. I don't know why they'd be coming here unless they were coming to enslave us to make Nikes for aliens, for sure. But no, it's definitely interesting to think about because you know, at least humans, we tend to exploit, and why wouldn't, you know, just assume that they're benevolent and they're not going to do something like that. I could see them stopping by and turning us into slaves. I also see a point of what Ronald Reagan was saying, and that would be how we could unify the human race, right? Is through an outside force. If we felt like we were being invaded, it could bring humanity together under a one world government. Again, going back to the
new world order.
Yeah, the new world order. But that's the goal that they say for the Project Bluebeam, is to get the one world religion, the one world government. And it's not even all said in religious terms either. Just the way that what they plan, that they say the plan is, it just lines up with what the Bible says, which is weird. So
I gotta touch on this for a sec, because so we talked a little earlier about, well, maybe it wasn't even on the show, about how big space is, right? We don't know how big space is, but we know it's really big from this point on, right? So why, my question would be, why would they come to a populated, you know, for me, it's like, if I wanted some honey, right, I wouldn't go over to a beehive that's swarming with angry bees, right, and go, that's the one I'm targeting. I would go somewhere, you know, maybe that, you know, the bees have died off or something like that, right? I wouldn't come in here to a planet that's shooting missiles at each other, firing guns at everything that moves. I just feel like if there was a civilization that was advanced enough to travel all of this way and to figure all of this stuff out, and anti-gravity crafts and all of this stuff, that they would be probably coming here for the opposite reason, which might be to help us not kill ourselves and to help us become more one and not destroy ourselves. I have a hard time believing that with all of the planets out there, they would need to come here and take our resources. You know, there's just so many planets that we're continually finding that scientists say, oh, we found a new Earth-like planet. You know, I don't see another civilization coming here just to enslave us. And I mean, I feel like it would be a lot easier
Be a real
to
bummer, right?
enslave animals. Yeah, it would be a huge bummer. And why not go somewhere and enslave some species that can't think for themselves, that wouldn't try to resist? You know what I mean? Like we have dogs. Our dogs aren't trying to resist and get away all the time. And you know what I mean? Like why would we? It just doesn't make sense to me. I want to take the optimistic point here and say that if alien life comes, it won't be to mess us up.
Maybe it's the slow approach, though. Maybe, I mean, what's the one thing they've been doing this whole time has been observing us, right? And trying to watch what's going on. And I take the opposite approach, and maybe this is just being on Earth and watching humans work. I think the idea that somebody's going to go all out of their way to help this planet is more fairy tale than to go there and attack it for resources, and just in the general scheme of the way life is.
That's human thinking, though, right?
Yeah, it's true. But that's the only basis I have as our thinking.
Yeah.
And I'm more inclined to believe that there would be a nefarious reason behind it. But hopefully, we're not the slave labor that Anthony just described. That doesn't sound fun. Although at that point I'm almost 80. I don't think I'm alive. So.
Yeah, so one thing I think about on this subject is I do agree with what Skiva was talking about there, from the standpoint that think about somebody that's trying to rob a house. If you're going to rob a house and you've got a lot of houses to choose from and a lot of them are empty, there's no one there, wouldn't you rather just rob that house that's empty? Why are you going to rob a house that's occupied? You would
have.
Go ahead.
What are the resources?
Like human beings ourselves, like our actual genetic material?
Well, yeah, or whatever. I mean, the thing is we're assuming the resources are other planets, other magnesium, other whatever. What if there's not any other entities out there like us, and we are just a viable slave labor? Like, I mean, I could do some work for them, if they give me the right house.
Wait.
A nice
But
job.
the slave labor angle, you're telling me they can go across freaking galaxies, they can drop 80,000 feet in less than a second, but they can't build little robots that build other little robots that build other little robots that could do every little tiny amount of labor you could ever imagine? They're going to travel all the way across the galaxy to find these hairless apes that are very difficult to deal with, and they're going to train us to make something? I don't think so. But
maybe they eat us. Maybe they farm us. Who knows?
The interesting angle to maybe they eat us, I mean, it does sound pretty freaking ridiculous, right? But at the same time, you get into scientists that study protein, and there is a direct correlation to how much protein you consume and how big your brain gets. Like there's an actual relationship to that. And humans are rich in protein, baby. No. But Skiva, what did you want to say?
No, I was just listening to your protein thing. Yeah. No, I don't know. I am still going to pull the optimist card on this, and I'm going to say that, like you said, Anthony, rob the house that no one's home, build some robots to do all this shit for you. If you can drop 80,000 feet in a second or a minute or whatever and plunge through the ocean to the depths, you know what I mean? You got some robots probably doing some shit. Or you can maybe get some telepathy, something like that. I don't know. I just don't see... I feel like humans are typically kind of fearful beings, and that's what causes...
Well, that's what helped us survive, right? To get to where we are now.
I don't know. Is it? It does it? I don't think that's the case. I think the fear is what enslaves us and what makes us comply and work our asses off to support the beings that may be keeping us enslaved. And I don't think they're aliens. I think that people think they need to extort other people to get what they want. And I don't think that an alien life form that is able to warp over here and look at us and just monitor us for 60 years or 70 years I don't think that's their agenda. I feel like maybe they're monitoring us to see when we start to mature, when they can come down here and share or help or whatever. But I can't imagine anyone entering this angry swarm of bees that we call humanity and being like, no, it's a good idea. Let's just go down there. There won't be any resistance. I would think it would just be, but at the same time,
we could sting them, right? Maybe we're flies, not bees.
Sure.
We're a bunch of flies buzzing around that they can just swat,
Yeah, and this is true, and and there's the whole thing with the frog in the boiling pot of water, right? If you put a frog in a boiling pot of water, it's going to try to jump out and save itself. But if you put it in the water and you slowly increase that temperature until it eventually dies from boiling to death or from the heat of the water, maybe that's the thing. Maybe they come down here and they're like, oh, everything's
that was
good.
A Charlie Sheen movie, remember? They kept increasing the heat of the planet to get us off.
Yeah, totally. So maybe they'd come down here and play all nice, and make us think that we were friends. But I still don't see that being a thing. I still feel like they would come here to help. I don't know.
Okay.
I guess I'm just optimistic.
Paradise Decay in chat has an interesting comment. He was commenting to Roots saying, "We're just an alien delicacy, like caviar." That's what they're like. We're like a rare treat, man. They love that human meat, baby. They just, they abduct one of us every now and then for a nice barbecue.
They abduct us, they bring us back, and then they farm us there so they can eat. They're not going to come all the way over here to get humans. They'll just grab a couple, bring us back, make us mate us, chicken baster made us, who knows.
No, but here's the problem, Skiba. They found out that when they plucked humans and they brought them back to their galaxy and growed the humans there, they just didn't taste as good, man. They got to come right here to planet Earth.
Gotta get fresh.
Yeah, they like that freshness. Okay, but one thing Roots said, though, that is an interesting angle. He was talking about, why would they come here? Lots of people in chat are saying there's so many minerals that could be found on all kinds of different planets and asteroids. So coming here for like a natural resource seems like a dumb idea. What is unique that is here? Well, it is this wide-ranging swath of life, and maybe you look for existing life for your genetic splicing experiments that you need to do. Like I used to remember, this is back in the days when, alien abductions were happening and, people were being snatched right out of their houses. And, there's all this alien abduction stuff, which that's kind of died down over the years. But one of the ideas behind alien abductions, there were these different psychologists that would interview people that supposedly were abducted, and they would talk about, how they were on the ship and what the aliens would tell them and everything. And they used to say that there's a breeding program that's going on. Like people would say that when they were abducted, they would be on the ship and they would see these like half alien, half human kids. And they'd be like, I strangely knew that I was the mother of that kid, and it came up and touched me and I felt like an energy. So like maybe, it sounds outrageous, right? But maybe our genetic material is actually incredibly valuable for them from a standpoint of they like screwing around. Like they could be the dog breeders of the universe, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And we're like some interesting dog breed that they want to splice and screw around with.
Well, interestingly enough, we haven't touched on the possibility that aliens could be here because they started us, right? And they're checking on their pets to make sure we haven't killed each other yet, or to see if there's anything that we need. There's a lot of movies that kind of go into that. One of the newer ones, well, it's not really new anymore, is Prometheus, right? The aliens came here and they spliced their DNA in with the stuff of our planet. They created humans, and they come back to check on us. So I think that's a very plausible situation as well, right? That they could have had a something to do with the genetic code that we already have. Maybe they created it. That's a possibility as well, and they're back, to check on their science project.
Or maybe there's something wrong with their reproduction and they can't reproduce without using our DNA, or I don't know. Who knows? I mean, there's a lot of reasons behind what they could be doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
They also could be coming here. Well, we talked about like the natural resources, and you would think there'd be enough planets, enough asteroids, enough comets out there where you would be able to get whatever material that you really needed. But maybe there is some kind of rare material. For example, think of the rare materials here on Earth that we use that are necessary for making like cell phones and stuff. And like China has a lot of that. Like they have that raw. What is it? There's a certain kind of material that they need to make that stuff, right? Do you know what I'm talking about, Skiva?
I don't off the top of my head.
But there's like these rare earth minerals that are used for like the production of cell phones and things like that. What I'm saying is, what if there's some kind of rare mineral that just isn't that common, and it happens to be here on Earth, but they don't give a rat's ass about us. They're not trying to enslave us, and they're not trying to help us. Frankly, they don't give a rat's ass about us. We're just little ants running around on the Earth. Like, do we care about ants? Do we look at ants and say, hey, take me to your leader. I want to save you guys from global warming, and I want to make sure that, there's no overcrowding, and, I want to help you guys out. I want to, give you some nanotechnology to cure your vascular system and clean you out. They maybe they don't give a F about us. They have no interest in us whatsoever, but they're going boom right into our oceans. They're going into the underground. They're grabbing a very specific kind of material, and it's just an excavation process, and they could give a rat's ass about us. Any thoughts on that?
That's a really good possibility as well. There's definitely a lot of resources here, just like any other planet, though. And I would still think that there's enough planets out there that you could get that resource on an unpopulated planet, unless the resource is us, right? But at the same
That's
time,
a good one.
yeah.
That is a good one. Like Roots, you absolutely nailed it, I think. The genetic material is humans, man. It's like what was?
Sounds like a horrible horror movie, right?
Yeah, we are the key, man. We're the key. We are the key. So yeah, it's a possibility. Alrighty, guys. Well, you know what? It's been a long episode. We are at the 2 hour and 20-minute mark. Can you believe that? But I thought it was fun. I thought it was an interesting discussion. I think we covered a lot of different topics. This is an exciting thing. Now, we were never planning on being like a UFO show, and we aren't a UFO show. This was supposed to be an episode about artificial intelligence. But what happened is, because there was this recent news, this New York Times story, we thought, hey, this is a good time, because you know what? Stuff is popping up every other week. We are in the year 2020. Anything is possible, man. These babies could land tomorrow on the White House lawn. And so we thought, let's get one of these episodes in. Let's go down the UFO rabbit hole for a little while. And we were able to do that. And I thought we had a lot of fun. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to go ahead and like the show. Go ahead and comment on the show after the episode is over, so we have your comments there. We'll definitely respond to all your comments. Be sure to subscribe. Go ahead and recommend our show to other UFO nut jobs and other conspiracy theory nut jobs out there. We're not really UFOs, and we're not even conspiracy. But what we're all about is like interesting, unique, strange, fringe kind of topics. That's what we're into here, and I thought we did a good one. Skiva, do you have any last words before we bounce on out?
Yeah, so there's a lot of talk of what will be coming out in the near future, and I feel like when some of this information does come out, maybe we'll hop in here and we'll let you guys know what it is, assuming that you haven't checked the news yourself. But it's all really good stuff. It's really interesting, and I feel like it's the closest we've come so far to bringing any light to the subject, and I'm really looking forward to the information that's divulged in the future here.
Absolutely. And Roots, any last minute words of wisdom?
No, I just thought it was funny. One dislike on the video guaranteed it was a reptilian. I thought that was a perfect comment. That bastard reptilian out there. We don't, it's actually good because It actually is good for the
There's
algorithms.
some rumors there, Roots, that you're actually a reptilian.
Hey, well, let's stop that rumor. I can't let that get out. Damn it.
Well, guys, all right. Well, yeah, that's pretty much going to go ahead and do it for this episode of Dark Frequencies. We really appreciate you guys joining us today. Everybody that joined us in chat, a lot of activity in chat. Had fun with this one, so hopefully you'll enjoy that. And of course, we will be back 2 weeks from today. I believe it is August 23rd. Don't quote me on that. But we're going to be talking all about artificial intelligence, kind of on a focus of problems with artificial intelligence and bad things that might happen, but also good things as well. I mean, hopefully there's some good along with it as well. And we're going to take a deep dive on that. And I think it's going to be an interesting topic as well. So be sure to check us out in about 2 weeks. But that'll go ahead and do it. We will see everybody next time. That's going to do it for Dark Frequencies. Alrighty. Bye.
Take it easy.
See you later.